The Ferris wheel loomed large against the dusky sky. Its rusted silhouette was a skeletal finger pointing towards the heavens. The amusement park stood silent, abandoned. Weeds cracked through the pavement, twisting around broken-down rides. A shiver ran down my spine as I looked at the peeling paint on the sign. Funland, it read. The letters faded and chipped. Fun was the last thing I expected to have here. Not with the stories, the whispers, the legends.
This place is creepy,
Mia said, her voice barely a whisper. She clutched her brother Leo's arm.
It's just an old park.
Leo, always trying to act brave, puffed out his chest, but his voice shook a bit. Sophie, the bravest of us all, just grinned. She loved a good mystery, and this place was full of them. We stood at the edge of the park, the chain link fence a flimsy barrier between us and the shadows lengthening within. The dare had been thrown. Spend 1 hour in Funland after dark.
You scared?
Sophie asked, her eyes twinkling. I wanted to say no. I wanted to sound brave like Sophie, but the truth was, my stomach was doing flips.
No way.
I lied. Mia and Leo were both pale, their eyes wide, but neither of them backed down. We were in this together, for better or for worse. The setting sun cast long, eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. The only sound was the wind whistling through the gaps in the Ferris wheel spokes. It sounded like a mournful sigh, like the park itself was crying out. Everyone in town had a story about Funland, tales whispered around campfires, stories told with eyes wide and voices low. They said the park was haunted by the ghost of a boy who disappeared many years ago. They called him the Lost Boy of Funland. No one knew his real name or what happened to him. Some said he fell from the Ferris wheel, others whispered he'd wandered off into the woods and was never seen again. The stories made my skin crawl, but they also sparked a thrill of excitement within me. What if the stories were true? What if we actually saw the ghost?
Do you think he's real? The ghost, I mean.
Mia whispered, her eyes darting nervously around. Leo shook his head, trying to look unconcerned, but I could tell he was just as spooked as we were. Funland wasn't always a ghost town. I'd seen pictures, faded Polaroids in my grandmother's dusty albums, pictures of a bustling park filled with laughter and the smell of cotton candy, pictures of happy families, their faces lit by the glow of the Ferris wheel. One picture in particular caught my eye. It was of a young boy, no older than me, with a wide grin and a bright red balloon. He stood in front of the carousel, his eyes sparkling with pure joy. My grandmother told me his name was Thomas. Thomas loved Funland. He'd spend every weekend there, riding the rides, playing games, his laughter echoing through the park. But one day, Thomas vanished. He was never seen again. The joy seemed to drain from Funland after that. People stopped coming. The rides fell silent, and the park slowly decayed into the eerie ruin it was now. The entrance gate creaked like a rusty groan. We stepped inside, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. The dying light of the sunset painted everything in shades of gray and black. The silence was unnerving. The only sounds were our own footsteps and the beating of our hearts. We walked deeper into the park, past the ghostly outlines of rides standing silent and still. The carousel stood frozen in time, its painted horses caught mid-gallop. The Ferris wheel loomed above us, a giant rusted skeleton against the darkening sky. The wind whistled through the spokes, sounding like whispered warnings.
This place is giving me the creeps.
Leo admitted, his voice barely a whisper. I couldn't have agreed more. A flicker of movement caught my eye. A shadow detached itself from the darkness beneath the Ferris wheel. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadow moved closer, resolving itself into the form of a boy. He looked about our age, with pale skin and sad eyes. He wore faded clothes like something out of an old photograph, and in his hand he clutched a tarnished silver locket. He looked at us, his eyes filled with a deep sadness.
Can you help me? I can't find my locket.
Mia gasped, burying her face in Leo's arm. Leo looked like he was about to bolt, but I stood my ground, my curiosity battling with my fear. This was the ghost everyone whispered about, the lost boy of Funland, and he needed our help. The ghost Thomas told us his story. He'd been playing near the Ferris wheel, his silver locket, a gift from his mother, dangling from his neck. It was the last thing he remembered before everything went dark. He'd been searching for his locket ever since. He couldn't find peace without it. The locket was shaped like a heart, with a delicate inscription on the back. "Forever in my heart," it read. We searched for what felt like hours, our eyes combing the ground beneath the Ferris wheel. The wind whipped around us, carrying the faint sound of Thomas's voice.
Help me, please help me find it.
I found it.
She exclaimed, holding up a tarnished silver locket. It was shaped like a heart. Thomas's eyes lit up when he saw the locket. He reached out, his hand passing through ours as he took it. A look of peace settled over his face.
Thank you for helping me.
And with that, he was gone, vanished into thin air as quickly as he'd appeared. We stood there for a moment, the silence deafening after the encounter. The wind rustled the leaves in the trees, sounding like a sigh of contentment. Had Thomas finally found peace? Had we helped him move on? We left the park as the moon rose high in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows behind us. The Ferris wheel loomed above, its silhouette stark against the moonlight. We never spoke of that night again, but sometimes when the wind is just right and the moon hangs low in the sky, I can almost hear the faint strains of carnival music. And I wonder if Thomas is still out there riding the Ferris wheel, his laughter carried on the wind. Funland remains abandoned, a ghostly reminder of its tragic past. People still whisper about the lost boy of Funland, but the stories have changed. They say the park isn't a place of fear anymore, but a place of peace, a place where a young boy finally found his rest. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind whispers through my window, I think I hear the creak of the Ferris wheel, and I wonder if Thomas is still searching for something lost, something he can never truly find.